Bishop T.D. Jakes' Sermon Review. Timing is everything. The parable of the sower, which can be found in Matthew chapter 13, serves as the reminder of inspiration for the author of this sermon, T.D. Jakes. God wants you to understand that time is essential in your life today, and He wants you to appreciate this. The best things in life take time, and this applies to everything from the preparation of a meal to the management of more complex responsibilities such as family, a career, and a marriage. A wedding can be held in as little as half an hour, whereas a successful marriage can take a lifetime to build. There are things that you can learn from having difficulties, and there are things that you can learn through trying things out, making mistakes, and learning from them. Solomon addresses the topic of timing in the book of Ecclesiastes, specifically in chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. Ecclesiastes 3. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. You have to come to terms with the fact that some individuals and some relationships and some chances come and go with the seasons. However, when we see that seasons have changed, we mistakenly believe that the blessing has come to an end. However, this is not the blessing that has ended. Rather, it is the fact that the seasons have changed. Solomon continues by saying that there is a time to plant and a time to harvest whatever has been planted. You need to be aware of the timing differences between planting and harvesting in order to be successful. You always ask God when to plant, but have you ever asked Him when to pluck up? Or are you set on retaining that which is planted to the detriment of pulling up that which you have become accustomed to? If the latter, then you should ask God when to uproot. You need to pray for God to help you uproot and discard that which is bad from your life. Matthew 13:24 through 30. Another parable put He forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But then the blade was sprung up, and brought forth fruit. Then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. People do not comprehend that timing is crucial not only in sports and cooking, but also when it comes to entertainment, public speaking, and music. People do not recognize that timing is everything. It is not enough to simply be able to read music. You also need to be able to keep time. It is not about whether or not you can tell jokes, but rather how well you can time them. It is not a matter of whether or not you can deliver a message, but whether or not you can use timing to transmit the information. If you do not understand timing, you can deliver amazing knowledge at the wrong time, and yet be an awful speaker because you gave it at the incorrect time. The act of breathing is a rhythm. The action of circulation is a rhythm. The process of having a heartbeat is a rhythm. And everything that is alive has a rhythm to it. Even God is a rhythm. The importance of timing is emphasized numerous times throughout both creation and nature, which is God's way of communicating this truth to us. It is impossible to bear fruit when the season is not correct. It is possible for you to be correct about what you said, but if you say it at the wrong time, you could end up doing more harm than good. Timing is everything, and it has nothing to do with right or wrong. The right information communicated at the wrong time can destroy your marriage, cost you your job, make a child feel helpless, prevent a loan from being approved, prevent the construction of a house, and prevent you from having the peace you should have in your life. You are concerned about being correct, but what you really need to be concerned about is timing. Because God has nothing to hide, we must not imagine that when God tells us that the kingdom of heaven is like a parable of the sower, God is concealing the truth as if he were playing hide and seek with us, because God has nothing to hide. What he is doing is analogous to a teacher attempting to explain the inexplicable workings of the kingdom of heaven to a being with significantly less intelligence. Therefore, when Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to something on earth, it is God bringing himself down to your level so that you might comprehend what he is talking about. This is God stooping down to communicate with us. If God were to explain it to you on his level, you would never be able to comprehend it because his thoughts are so much higher than yours. Just like the heavens are higher than the earth, so are God's thoughts higher than your thoughts. Therefore, in order for you to have an understanding of what it's even like to live in the kingdom of heaven, he will communicate with you using analogies, metaphors, and comparisons. Jesus is attempting to clarify some concepts for you by relating them to the parable of the sower. If you are standing over your life and saying things like, "I planted, but I do not see anything. I keep sowing and I do not see anything," you absolutely must be aware of the fact that the seed must first develop underground before it can develop above ground. It is not supposed to be visible to you, but just because you cannot see it does not mean that the roots are not expanding in the ground below you. In the course of a short period of time, it will transform from a seed into wheat, and then from wheat into bread. This parable should teach you that in order to succeed, you will have to be willing to stand out from the crowd and do things differently than everybody else does. You have to be willing to engage in contentious discourse. You need to be open to the possibility of people talking about you. It is all a normal step in the procedure. They are the weeds that have been placed in your life to strangle you. Therefore, you may expect them to say negative things about you. Weeds do not like wheat, and they will do anything to make your harvest smaller. You should also take away from the fable the knowledge that anytime there is a significant opportunity for harvest, the enemy will always designate the location with some sort of adversity in order to destroy it. Weeds were never sown before the wheat by the enemy. Keep in mind that the weed was planted in response to the wheat being sown. As the devil was aware that God was going to use you to do great things, he drew a line through your life and marked it with disaster. Whatever has gone wrong in your life, whatever disasters have befallen you, whatever tragedies have befallen you in the past, or whatever trauma you experienced as a child, was the enemy's way of identifying the location. He was well aware that the moment was not yet right, so he began working in the shadows even before you did, in order to have his system in place before you began bearing fruit. He has always set up shop, so when you start bearing fruit, you will have a challenge on your hands. Watch out, because the enemy seeks to corrupt the environment where God has seeds in the ground. Another thing that you may learn from this parable is that destruction and corruption are two entirely different things. The opponent was unable to harm the wheat, so all he could do was interfere with the environment in which the wheat was being grown. It is impossible for him to kill what God has planned for you, to kill or curse what God has blessed. If my root was blessed, then the fruit will also be blessed. He is limited to to what He can do in the circumstances that God has placed you in. In other words, the enemy is working long before you ever realized who you were, knew your existence had a purpose, became fruitful, or even had a name. He was working underground in the root system, and long before you realized your purpose. For now, God wants you to let the weeds alone. Do not take issues into your own hands because He does not want you to. Your future is in His hands. Another thing to learn from the story is that patience is the stimulant of faith. Leave it alone, advises the master, lest you make it worse while trying to fix it. The enemy's goal is to make you believe that time is running out and that you must act immediately. Your faith, on the other hand, is manifested in the way you remain silent and patient. As a result of the enemy's ferocity, you feel compelled to take matters into your own hand. Knowing that those who wait for the Lord will be strengthened is an important lesson for you to learn. They will be able to run and walk without tiring. If you wish to remove the weeds, it is not that you are wrong. It is just that the timing is not appropriate. You will lose the entire harvest if you remove it before the wheat has been harvested. The harvest will come, no matter how urgent the need. Pulling the weeds before the harvest will kill your destiny. In contrast, when the wheat is ripe for harvest, weeds will not matter because you have already brought forth the fruit. Trust God's timing is the best time to pluck out the weeds that choke you in your life.